All right, another one down, another week. What's going on, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Um, what's that? Monday. Monday at the time of this recording feels a little off because we're not doing our regularly scheduled program. Um, but I guess the first thing before we even get into this, condolences to those out there that are affected by that whole submarine situation. Did you hear about that?
Yes.
Yeah. So condolences to those people that are being affected by it. I have my own opinions about that, and I'm sure Jay, you have some as well. But I mean, we could talk about
I'll
that.
let you get that a topic. You know.
I mean, we can talk about that on top of this because I mean, it kind of coincides a
How's
little
that?
bit. Well, because
Oh,
the
okay.
I could say the teenager didn't want to go, but the parent was.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
You didn't hear that? Yeah. Apparently, from what I've been reading, the teenager that was on that submarine didn't want to go, but the parent basically was kind of guilting him into going, so the parent would feel happy. So the kid was there was a teenager involved in that whole incident. So it kind of could tie into that whole parenting thing that you were talking about. Oh, but
So,
we
so you try to say he's a bad parent? Well, it could have been bad
hey,
parenting.
look, you forcing your kid to do something they don't want to do. It's like, hey, you mean you live under that rule? My house, my rules, right? I'm,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
I'm,
that's right.
I'm just saying, not every call is a good call. Um,
Parenting is not a perfect, checklist, and you do everything right. It's
right,
you do the best you can with what you got.
right. But let me ask you this: if your child doesn't want to do something, especially in something that may or may not be safe, why would you force them to go or guilt them into going? Like it's one of those things like, oh, I want to spend time with my kid. I get that from a parent's perspective because you don't know how long you got on this earth.
See you after your trip. See you after when you come back up, right?
I'm just saying, from a parent's perspective, you're the one with children here, so I figured I'd get your take on that
Okay.
before we get into the other part of the.
Okay. For me, it depends on what it is.
Mm,
If that, if the kid doesn't want to do it, absolutely not. You don't have to do it because it's tight space. You know, I don't like being in tight spaces for a long period of time. So I understand. But if I said, cut the grass and you don't want to do it, no, you're going to cut the grass.
right? No, that's not. That's
You
a
understand?
chore.
You understand my point? I mean, it's not. It's no negotiating. So
Well, that's
that's
a
part of
that's a
parenting.
chore. I mean, of course, you're not going to negotiate on a chore. That's
Right.
what's expected of you as a kid. When
Another example, like say, well, if you don't want to get on this ride, you're scared of the ride. Well, you're not going to get on it. I'm not going to force you to get on a ride. But let's use swimming. Swimming.
mm-hmm,
Now, some kids are scared of water,
mm-hmm,
and if it gets to a point where I dropped the ball and didn't get you comfortable with the water early on, that's on me. So I can't. I'll encourage you to try to do it later on, and you don't want to do it. I can't make you do it. You know. I might bump into you, especially if I know you're safe. Knock
mm-hmm.
you in the water just to if you're terrified of it. I gotta get you away from that. It's my job. I dropped the ball because I didn't get you comfortable with water when you're in that 1 to 5 range.
Okay.
So now you're outside of that range. That was on me. Now you're terrified of water. Now I gotta try to make up for that somehow.
I mean,
So I
yeah.
might knock you in and knowing that the safety measures are there. But to get on a sub that's going to see the Titanic 13,000 I guess meters or feet, no, no, I wouldn't.
I mean, I
That wouldn't be the time. That wouldn't be the time to make a young person do something that they don't want to do.
mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, I just figured I
because it's too young. What if something goes? It even the probability of something going wrong. Do I want my 18-year-old who that hadn't really lived life yet, and I make a conscious decision? I paid for it to do it on my own with my own money. Force him to do it? No,
mhm.
no, I wouldn't.
I mean, I figured I'd ask the parent in the room, because that was
Yeah,
that was that was what I was reading. I was just like, that's one of those moments where, why are you forcing or guilt tripping or however you want to phrase it, however it was. Basically, he was doing it to make his dad happy. Essentially, he got on the submarine to make his dad happy. And long story short, but that whole parenting thing that she wanted to go on about, it's kind of funny because I'm really big on the whole social media thing, and I do remember you saying last week you don't want to rely on the government to make sure I'm saying this correctly. You don't want the government to be parenting your kids, essentially, right?
that's right. That's
Right.
right. You can't rely on the government or police to be the people who raise your kids or control your kids. You should do that as a
Right.
parent.
And so with that being said, it's funny that you said that last week, because maybe 2 days later there was a law that's been passed in Texas that's going to go in effect September 1st, where websites that require signups via email, if it's a minor, they're going to have to verify the minor with the parents, associate the parents with that minor that's on the website. What else? Register the minor as a user, and also make sure that they're what was the other thing? It was like three things that they have to do. Conduct age verification, verify parents, and secure parental consent for a wide range of account activity. So,
Absolutely.
do you think that falls into that government parenting your kids, or should that be something that the parents should just do on their own? Because this was something that ties into that whole. This goes hand in hand with the social media thing, because parents not looking at their kids while they're, because they give their kids the phone, like, go do whatever, leave me alone. Well, not every parent, but some parents, when they're busy or whatever, tell them to go play on their phone or whatever. So
Uh,
do you think that's a good step in the right direction? But that also falls into that government, trying to enforce the parent. I think it kind of goes into that government parenting your kids territory a little bit. But I just wanted to see where you stood on that, because I found it interesting that once you said that last week, that came out, and I was like, okay, well, kind of a part two to last week in a sense.
right, right. And looking at that, you got to say this. There's a reason for that because it was never looked at before.
Hmm.
It was never even considered. So I think several things going on now. There's drugs, and there is this influence of ideas that are being pushed
Hmm.
out there and is being accepted. And who is the most vulnerable to get caught up in things outside of the home is the younger generation. So having having to police that to the extent they have to, it was necessary because it's getting out of control.
Hmm. So, you said something kind of key, and I think that just goes to the fact that everything's changing very rapidly with technology, which I always harp on, and that you didn't have to do that back then because it wasn't that big at that time back then. Like, you had to worry more so. Well, I know our generation was more so the person on the block trying to offer you candy. That was about as far as it went for us. Like,
That's
we
right.
didn't have all the social media and everything like that the kids have now. So yeah, it's going to be a lot more extreme because there's so many different things that you have access to now that we didn't have, like, thinking about it when I'm in that age range. Yeah, there wasn't, internet wasn't even a thing until what, 97, 96,
Yeah, where
somewhere in
it
that.
was affordable to everyone, to
Yeah,
the masses,
right.
probably, yes,
Yeah,
yes. It was probably out way before that, but when it was affordable where everybody could have it,
right.
basically
And even
affordable.
and even then, in its infamous infancy, you didn't have all the stuff that you have now to worry about, as a kid.
Right.
So by that time, we were already programmed to, go play outside or do other stuff as kids. So
Yeah, and you made a very valid point. You got now you got drugs. You got people selling drugs online.
right.
Online. You got sex trafficking. You got people get caught up in sex online. This is all online. And if the the medium that they're using are not going to police them, you got to put things in place to protect the parents and protect the kids in their home. So with that, I totally understand it, but parents, social media is a new age. But what's wrong with read a book, read a book, read a book? I'm just saying, why are we letting social media dictate to our kids? You could put educational software on the kids' iPads, phones. They don't have to get on social media.
Hmm. Well,
What?
I mean, it's kind of hard for them not to want to get on social media because all the kids networks and stuff, they tell them to, look up certain characters on their Instagram page and stuff like that. So it's kind of difficult to avoid it. And I mean, I don't know if there's really a way to get around that. And when you're saying read a book, I know libraries are still a thing, but how often are people actually going to the library nowadays to check out a book? I mean, most of the time they're using, like myself, I use the audiobooks. It's like I
Audiobooks.
just do the audiobooks so I can do other things while I'm listening.
Right.
So, I mean, if you want to go that route with your kids, I don't know if your kids will be focused
Oh
enough to do that because they're going to be, they're kids. They're not going to focus on one thing. They're going to be doing all these other things. Uh, so there's no, I mean, I don't know. I don't know because I'm not a parent. I don't know if there's a real way to do it, but like I said, just seeing that law, I thought they were kind of taking some of the power out of the parents' hands in a sense, as far as trying to monitor their kids. But I get why they're doing it at the same time. So it's kind of
yeah.
like,
They were losing control.
hmm,
Uh, the social media was overriding them, their values, their principles, and everything else. And with my which is going to be a topic, I'm gonna bring up about with the drugs, it is so serious now. You're one and done. You got one chance to mess up, and that's it.
hmm,
So, a- and and when people see those law, I really believe that law was based on the drug problem
hmm,
that's going on, and we'll talk about that another, in the next podcast. But that drug problem has affected not just, it doesn't it doesn't discriminate in a sense.
hmm,
And the so with that being said, and it's mainly online. Is you ain't gonna have that guy on the street corner
hmm,
anymore. That predator is not gonna knock on your door. He's gonna lure her out by communicating with her constantly,
right.
or him constantly. He's gonna make the drugs available. You just, social media, hey, I want this, I'll meet you here. So it's different. So now the parents trying to say, hey, my hands are tied. unless we put some things in place.
Like I hear you with the drugs. I don't see it that often. Like you probably have to go to like the dark web or something like that to find the drugs. I think it's more so of the community, the LG, the alphabet community, and
Right.
everything that has been, well, not everything that's been going on, but just in general, because that isn't. I think Texas is like a Republican state, isn't it? And aren't they more like
More liberal, gun control.
yeah.
They don't believe in all that. So yeah, absolutely.
So I think it has more to do with that. I may not be correct on everything, but like I said, this is just from outside looking in, and with everything that's been going on with different ethnicities, genders, all that stuff. But I think it's more so going to try to let the kids be kids more, to say, so to speak. Like instead of having all that
All that
stuff.
quick
Huh?
due to social media, they're growing up too soon,
Well,
or
not growing up too soon, but more so like the kids aren't necessarily being kids. I don't know it. I don't know the whole thing behind it, but like I said, just from outside looking in, it seems like they're trying to let the kids be kids instead of having to question maybe their sexuality or their gender or something like that. I don't know, but and just looking at it from a different perspective, that may be why they're trying to clamp down on that, because you see a lot more of that on social media and things like that. And I think that's probably why they went that route, but I'm not 100% certain. I don't know. That's just my guess.
I, I'm pretty sure it did have something to do with it.
Mm.
But the thing is, it's about getting back the family where the parents have control in the child rearing aspect of it. And once that kid gets to a certain age, yeah, absolutely. They're young adults. They can do whatever they want to do. Hopefully, the values that you put in place during that time until it gets there stick, or
Mm.
they can always come back to it. They might fall away, but they can come back to it. But right now, you fight the battle. They spend more time on social media
Yep.
than they spend at the dinner table.
I mean, that's been a thing since that's been a thing for a
So,
minute.
so who's going to have
Right.
more influence?
I mean, we already talked about this. The depending on what age demographic you're in, it's going to be different things. So we already talked about that. The Blues Clues and the Bluey and Paw Patrol. That's going to have more influence on the kid in the like 1 to 7 year old range, somewhere in there, I guess. And then maybe like 8 to 12. It's more like maybe like the Transformers, like all the, depending on I don't know necessarily what the young girls will watch with, but for me, I know when I was like between 8 and 12, it was like Transformers, Ninja Turtles, all the Nicktoon shows like Doug and all that stuff that was coming out. Um,
What's the Rugrats?
Rugrats, that was another one. So that was pretty much the sequence of events as far as, oh, and Alf. I don't know if you probably know Alf because you were, yeah,
Yeah, I know Alf. I know
yeah.
Alf. I know.
Um, Alf was another one that I watched when I was younger. Apparently, I don't remember a whole lot from my childhood, um, but yeah, I just I just
Do
started with
you think it's needed?
what?
Do you think the parental
I mean, I don't think it's needed
role?
because the parents, if you're going to be a parent, you should be on top of that stuff, right? If you're going to have the responsibility of a parent, being a parent, you should be on top of that stuff. Like, not necessarily monitoring every single thing. Well, at a young age, yes, you probably want to monitor every single thing your kid does. When they get to the point, I say when they get to high school, you loosen the reins a little bit, but not to the point where they, get to that point where they're doing something dumb. Like I said, where everybody goes to that, that phase where you do something dumb in high school, whatever. So it's kind of like a sequence thing. Like you have the reins tight down, depending on your surroundings, of course, where you're at. Like you may live somewhere where you can you can be outside 24/7. And I know parents, if you know your kid's safe, you want that because you want your kid to be tired so they're not bugging you when they come home. See, I know
Activities. That's why you put them in activities.
Right. Yeah, because you want to have that peace of mind. Like, why is this kid coming over here to mess with me? I'm just trying to relax after a long day of work. I know.
Let's
Um,
play. Let's play. Let's do this. Let's run. No, I'm
mm,
tired.
right.
But
So yeah, just depending on where you're at, it changes things as far as what you do as a parent. But yeah, if you are a parent, you got to stay on top of that stuff. Just like when it's funny because my friend does the little thing where they said how dads listen, or it was a joke, a meme or whatever, like how kids watch how dads watch their parents and they just listen, like they're sitting there watching TV but they can hear.
yeah,
You know what I'm talking about? Like like you hear something going on, like better not be doing it. So my friend,
they're
but
still looking at
right, they
TV.
still look at
But
it, yeah, and they can tell what's going on. It's true because it's funny because it's true because my friend, he does the same thing. He'll listen, like, what are y'all doing? And they know they get caught. It's funny. So I just think that's pretty amusing how accurate that is, the different parenting styles. But yeah, if you go down that route to being a parent, yeah, you gotta be on top of that stuff. Like why would you can't have the government trying to run things for you.
absolutely not. I totally agree with you on that. That's why I would say policing and laws are not parents. It's not taking the place of parenting. And but that law is only as good as the parent in that home, the parents in the home.
Right.
But at least the good parents got something to back them with.
Mm-hmm.
So, and just like any law, there's people going to break them no matter what. The laws are only for the people who are going to follow it.
Right. And with that one specifically, I did read in there where they said the companies that fail to comply will face heavy fines, and I see that being something that can be abused by certain parents, or if they way to get a quick buck, or however you want to look at it, or maybe they have a vendetta against the company, but they can they'll find some kind of loophole to go against that. And
Yeah, yeah, and they'll find a loophole based on maybe something they weren't doing.
right.
Like if the kid find a way to do it, you drop the ball. I put things in place, but we can't catch everything. If they go to their friend's house, who parent don't believe in it and don't do it, they'll probably get the same information that would have got at your house.
Mhm.
That you had blocked at the house that the parent who was using the laws that were in place. Everybody's not going to follow the law. So parenting plays a major role in this. It's only as good as the parents.
Yeah. I mean, it, you can't. I mean, like I said, it goes to a certain extent, because then the parenting, like we talked about last week, parenting goes by the wayside after a certain age, because then it's pretty much on
That's
the.
what the kids throw it by the wayside. They throw it by the
Yeah,
wayside.
I mean, just like you have the rules in high school, people, come on now. Like once you get to high school, like I said, that is the tipping point. Like the rules pretty much go out the window. Even though the kids know they're probably gonna get in trouble, they're still gonna do it when they get to high school. They may or may not do it. It's one of those things. It's kind of like for whatever reason, it's like a rite of passage. You get to high school, you like,
But today this stuff follows you now
well, yeah.
based on
Well, I mean,
media
it
and
followed you
technology.
when that stuff came out. So whatever you were doing by the time it came out. So if you were on Twitter back in what 2007, when did it first come out? It came out when I was in college. So it was like 2007, something like that.
Yeah.
2007, 2008. So if you posting wild stuff on on Twitter, at that time, yeah, it's following you since then. So people could go back and find it if they really wanted to.
2007. I just
No,
heard about Twitter about
yeah, you
a
just heard
couple
about
years
Twitter.
ago.
Yeah, no, Twitter's been around for a minute.
Oh,
It was a wild time when Twitter first came out. Like people were just saying anything and everything. Like when it same thing with that and Facebook. Like when
Facebook.
Facebook first came out, that started in school, and it was honestly, in my opinion, they should have kept it for students only and not branched out to parents and everything like that. Because it's just like okay, but
Yeah, my coworker brought it up to me, and yeah, I was like, Facebook, what's that? He was like, oh, this for adults and all that. I said, but you
it
said it was
it was for
was
college students. It was for college students
okay.
when it first came out. It was for a way for college students to connect and everything like that. And then once they branched out to parents, it was just like, oh, okay. So we can't have we can't have anything basically, like anything for ourselves. Um, but I mean, I get it from a business standpoint why they wanted to do it, but
I got a quick question.
yeah.
So why do you think such drastic measures are taking place based on now laws are being played? It wasn't laws before, and when you're talking 2007, you know, this stuff was out,
Hmm.
or even before that. Now, parents seeing that, look, this thing is getting out of hand. Is that what you think is going on, or do you see that? Well, maybe this needs to keep the way it is. Just let it roll the way it
Um,
is.
I don't know because I see because here's how I quit it. For those of you that have played this, or those of you that know that era, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. That is the era where you had to have thick skin because you're going to be called every name under the sun. Like everything that you can think of, you're going to be called that in Modern Warfare 2. So
Okay.
coming from that era, I feel as though us that played it more, it was more so the guys that played it, people like my age that played it, were more used to having thicker skin. Make sure I'm not getting off track here. We have thicker skin, so we don't crumble under like being called a name or something like that, or whatever the case may be. And as far as I just want to make sure is it getting out of hand as far as the rules, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Is that why they put these laws in place, or
It
what?
may some of that may have because and I we always say a large group of us was like, man, they wouldn't survive in a Modern Warfare 2 lobby. That's how some of us equate that to that. It's like we put them in a Modern Warfare 2 lobby, they would get eaten alive. So it's like the try, you go through the fire to get to, become a tough exterior, I guess. And I think it has something to do with what we were talking about previously is that they haven't been through that adversity or been
They're
through
not
any
tough enough.
that could be possibly be it too through any it doesn't seem
Like
like huh?
old school.
What.
They're not. They can't handle. They can't handle
Well, I
that.
mean, your version is a little bit different from our version. Okay, so we had the wild time, like you had to do the whole up the hill whatever both
Right.
ways. See, we had the era where people weren't being policed now for what they say. So you were getting called everything and anything, and you had to either toughen up and like fight that dude or whatever the case may be, or you let it roll off your back. However you go about it, but that was that was our walking up the that's our walking up the hill both ways, everything like that y'all like to say. So I think the people now that era's gone and we have the everybody getting a participation trophy and everything like that. Because in our era, you had a winner or loser, you get called every name, so you had to toughen up and eat it. That's it. So now that we're getting into the era where it's more like everybody gets a participation trophy, there's not a winner or a loser. everything like that, they don't have that concept of adversity or losing. And I think that transitions to some of the laws that you are seeing now to try and protect
Protect
everyone's
people's
feelings. Yes.
feelings. Yep, that's right.
So, long story to this go back to the original point that's I think that's kind of what it is.
And that's not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It, why are people so sensitive now, or so easily influenced to people who they don't even know?
Right.
And the people who are there, that's there for them, taking care of them, is a disconnect. They can't even relate. So yes, it has to be managed because it's like an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Social media is an addiction. It can become an addiction.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, everybody pretty much knows that, depending on how much time you spend on it, everything
That's
like
right.
that. But yeah, I don't know if you're ever going to have another era like that. Because like I said, that's when everything was starting to come out. Like you had your Facebooks, your Instagrams, way for people to connect with each other. People just saying slanderous stuff on the internet with no well, of course now they're having repercussions now, but
That's
back
right.
then it's just like you say whatever you want. I mean, it was just like you say whatever you want, but there's going to be a moment where you get checked if you say it in the wrong group. So but now it's just you can't. I mean, not saying that they should be able to. I don't, it's a tough subject to get into as far as that policing words and everything like that. But I'm from the school like if you're gonna say it, you got to know what comes with that. Like, but you shouldn't be going around just calling everybody that just willy nilly. But if you're gonna say it, you got to know somebody may check you. Somebody may check you at some point. So,
I got a quick question, and because I'm not social media savvy,
mm,
is it pertain? Does it have anything to pertain to with influencers using their kids that are under
it could.
age?
I mean, you saw the what was it that show? I never saw it, but like the cuties where the moms dress up the kids to go in pageantries and stuff like that.
Right, right,
I mean,
right,
it
right.
it could have
That's
something.
detrimental too. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the new laws pertain to that as well. How
Mm,
parents use their kids in these social media platforms,
mm-hmm.
things as well.
Yeah, but like I said, I don't see another era like that happening for well, pretty much never. Um, because everything is pretty much policed now. So yeah, that Wild West era is pretty much dead in the water. That ended in like 2000. I want to say 2010, 2012, somewhere in there.
No, because it became consequences behind it.
Right, of course. That's what I'm saying. Everything caught up to people at that time, but during that small window,
Mhm.
like I would say, like high school from 2000 what
The gloves
2001.
came off, and
Huh?
everybody was just
Basically, from like 2001 to about 2010, 2011, that
right.
was your walking up. You had to you got raked through the coals. You
The Tyson era of social media. You get knocked out, or you just
basically, basically, that was basically it. I mean,
oh, God.
you can say whatever you want, but there's repercussions to what you say. I mean
Wow.
that's just the way it is. But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to bring that up because, like I said, I thought it was interesting that we talked about it, and then immediately, like 2 days later, they came out with that, and I was like, he did say about government trying to police the kids and everything like that. So I just wanted to circle back and get your opinion on add in a little bit of other things to that.
And you think about it, we talked about it, we just talked about everything, but it still relies on the parent. This is just a tool,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't um parent the child. The parent still has to be involved. The parent still has to be engaged to make that law work. So parenting, It's no way around it. It has to be done, or you're gonna have chaos, which I'm seeing out here in the world.
Well, yeah, it was a short. Well, it's kind of not really a short week, but it wasn't really anything going on outside of that. And then, of course, like I said, we had the whole submarine thing, which was something of a whole different topic for another day, I guess.
Yes, I hope we cover that
Oh
because I
well,
got
I mean,
about
if it's not
seven.
covered by you next week, I'll definitely bring it back up and we can talk about it because I want there's a lot of things I want to say about that. Um, as far as pertaining to people and having money, because I had this conversation with one of my friends the other day, actually.
Okay.
But yeah, but we hope you all
Don't
enjoyed.
forget that. Don't
What?
forget that. Remember that. I want to
Oh
talk about
no,
that.
I'm sure somebody else will ask me my opinion on it when but yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
having money is just wild. Like that is just it does things to people. And I'll just leave it at that. Um, but yeah, we hope you all enjoyed.
All right.
We will see you next week.
All right.
And it'll be his topic, which you see how these
It's
go.
always awesome.
Right, right. But yeah,
I look forward to it, and and the thing about it, I appreciate this topic because social media is a new age, and I'm glad you're
right.
up with it.
Uh-huh. And why do you think I keep talking to you about it? Because you don't know anything about it. You're like,
I don't know enough. I don't know enough about it, and I
oh,
don't care enough. I know enough.
everything that comes out of my era is just like, oh, well, this is a thing. Oh, AI. Oh, social media. Oh, we didn't have that. We play ball in the cup.
That's right. That's why we built tough, and y'all built weaker. Weak,
No,
weak.
no,
No.
never that. But we'll see you
Yeah,
all
great
next week.
topic. See you next week, bro.
Yep, and we're out of here. Later.
Peace.